All right, so today we are really diving deep into the world of business planning. We're dissecting the business plan workbook, pulling out the nuggets of wisdom that can make a real
It's
difference.
like a crash course in business success, all packed into one little workbook.
Exactly. And this workbook doesn't shy away from the realities of starting a business. It
Mhm.
acknowledges that while the potential rewards are huge, so are the risks.
It's true,
Yeah.
The probability of just completely failing, it's honestly not that high. But those consequences when things do go wrong, yeah, they can be pretty rough if you're not prepared.
It's a bit like how the military plans its missions, right? Every detail, every possible scenario meticulously planned out. It's not about eliminating risk entirely, but mitigating it as much as possible.
Exactly. A solid business plan is like your roadmap. It helps you navigate the ups and downs, secure funding, and get everyone on your team on the same page.
It's about setting yourself up for success from day one. Now, I've always been intrigued by this whole idea of first mover advantage, that assumption that being the first one in a market guarantees success.
Oh, yeah,
But this workbook, it kind of throws a wrench in that theory, doesn't it?
it does. Because in reality, research often shows that businesses who enter a market later tend to have a better track record. It's like that saying, why be the guinea pig?
Right.
Let someone else test the waters first.
So it's smarter to observe and learn from those early mistakes instead of just rushing in head first.
Exactly. Companies that come in later, sometimes even years or decades after those pioneers, they can have a higher chance of success.
Wow. So it's not just about being first, it's about being the best prepared. And speaking of preparation, one thing this workbook really hammers home is the importance of a strong vision statement, no matter what size business you're building.
It's true. Your vision statement, that's your elevator pitch.
Hmm.
It captures the core of what your business is, what you aspire to be, the ultimate goal. It's like the North Star guiding all your decisions.
I love that analogy. It reminds me of Microsoft's vision way back in the day. A computer in every home.
Right.
An ambitious goal back then when hardly anyone even had a computer in their office. But look at them now.
Exactly.
A powerful vision can really rally the resources and support you need.
No question about it.
Yeah.
It helps potential investors and even future employees really grasp and connect with what you're all about. But, you know, you can have the most inspiring vision in the world, but if you don't know who you're selling to,
It's all for nothing.
exactly.
And that's where really understanding your target market comes in. The workbook uses a fantastic example. Ella's Kitchen, the baby food company.
Oh, yeah, they're a great example.
They really understood their market.
They did something really interesting. They look beyond the obvious,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not just about appealing to the parents who are buying the food.
Right.
It's about appealing to those babies and toddlers who are actually eating it.
That's brilliant. And instead of those traditional glass jars, they went with those brightly colored pouches that kids just love.
Genius, isn't it? They understood that by appealing to the kids, they were ultimately appealing to the parents' desire to keep their little ones happy.
It's not just about selling a product. It's about crafting a whole experience.
You got it.
It's about understanding what makes your target audience tick. And this workbook, it doesn't just stop at the surface level. It brings in this fascinating concept, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Have you heard of this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so relevant to marketing, even though it comes from the world of psychology, right?
Yeah.
Because it helps us understand the psychology of our customers, those deeper motivations, like the need for esteem, for example. The
Yeah.
workbook mentions Responsible Travel, a travel agency, as a great example of tapping into that need.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, they offer these eco-friendly holidays, right? So they appeal to travelers who want to make responsible choices and be seen as environmentally conscious. They're selling you an identity, not just a trip.
It's so smart how they've aligned their business with those deeper values. It's like those aha moments you get from this workbook, those light bulb moments. It's not always enough to understand your target market as a whole, though, is it? I mean, within any market, you'll have different segments, each with their own needs and preferences.
Exactly.
What resonates with one group might not land with another.
Yeah. For example, imagine a company that does carpet cleaning, right? They might cater to both residential and commercial clients. But someone cleaning their home might be more driven by cost, whereas a business owner might prioritize minimal disruption to their workday. Different priorities, different needs.
You've got to tailor your message. Okay, so we've talked about knowing your customers inside and out, but there's another crucial piece to this puzzle, right? And that's understanding your competition.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you're not operating in a vacuum.
Because no matter how innovative your idea is, if you don't know how to position yourself against the competition,
Exactly.
you're kind of shooting in the dark. The workbook talks about competitor research. How much can you actually find out about your competitors?
Well, getting those nitty-gritty financial details, it's not always easy, especially with private companies.
Right.
But the workbook mentions some handy resources, things like companies' house filings, if you're in the UK. And then you got directories like Keynote, Kelly's. Those are good starting points.
You piece together those clues. You're like a detective trying to decipher their strategies.
Exactly. And once you understand that landscape, then you can think about how to set yourself apart. The workbook talks about Porter's generic strategies as a really helpful framework for this. There are essentially three main ways businesses can gain a competitive advantage.
Okay, break it down for us. What are these strategies?
All right, so the first one is cost leadership. Think of it like being the Ryanair of your industry.
Sure.
You're the most efficient, no-frills option. You offer the lowest prices by keeping your own costs super lean.
Makes sense. So what's next?
Then you've got differentiation. So this is about offering something unique and valuable that really sets you apart. Apple's a great example. They're known for their sleek design, their innovative features. And they can charge a premium price because people see the value.
And their customers are willing to pay more because of that perceived value. So it's about highlighting what makes you stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. And then there's focus strategy. So this is where businesses, they really hone in on a specific niche market. They either offer the lowest cost within that niche or they differentiate themselves within that segment.
So it's about finding your lane and owning it. The workbook gives the example of Flowcrete, a company that focuses on really specialized flooring solutions. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. They have their niche.
And that focus gives them a real edge in that specific market.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, that alignment between your product or service, your target market, and your competitive strategy. A lot of this seems to tie back to authenticity as well, wouldn't you say? The workbook talks about Rohan, a clothing company that shifted from selling wholesale to a direct-to-consumer model. They wanted to regain control of their brand, their pricing, their customer relationships.
And it shows that you don't always have to follow the conventional path. It can be about charting your own course, right?
Yeah.
But even with a killer strategy and a deep understanding of your market, things can still go south if you're not operationally sound.
Right, because what good is a great product or service if you can't deliver on your promises?
Exactly. The workbook highlights that even businesses with incredible potential can stumble if their operations are a mess.
Oh, for sure.
They're really big on starting lean.
So maybe that means outsourcing certain functions initially to keep things flexible and cost-effective.
Exactly. It's about striking that balance.
It all comes down to having a solid foundation, both operationally and financially.
Exactly. And speaking of finances, we can't forget about the often dreaded topic of funding. Because let's face it, not everyone's got a pile of cash just sitting around waiting for a business idea to come along.
Definitely not. And the workbook acknowledges that while bootstrapping is great, sometimes you need a little or a lot of outside help.
Absolutely. Especially if you've got those upfront costs, inventory, equipment, marketing, all those things that can drain your bank account before you even get started.
Yeah, or even just keeping the lights on while you wait for those first sales to come in.
Exactly. And that's where having a really strong business plan is non-negotiable. Whether you're approaching banks, venture capitalists, even friends and family, you've got to show them the plan. Demonstrate that this isn't just a whim, this is a viable business.
You're not just winging it.
Exactly.
So the workbook talks about different funding options. There are bank loans, venture capitalists, angel investors, crowdfunding, even government grants. That's a lot to wrap your head around.
It can be overwhelming, yeah, because each option comes with its own set of pros and cons.
Right, like bank loans, they seem like the traditional route, but then there's collateral, interest rates.
Exactly. They're not just giving it away. Then you've got those venture capitalists and angel investors. They've got deeper pockets, but they're looking for a return on their investment. And often that means taking a sizable chunk of your company.
It's like they're asking for a piece of your baby before it's even born.
That's a good way to put it. And then there's crowdfunding, which has really exploded in recent years.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great way to raise funds from a large pool of people, even if it's just small contributions from each person.
Power in numbers, right. It's like the democratization of investing.
Exactly.
And then you have those government grants.
Oh, yeah.
Which they sound amazing in theory, but I imagine they're super competitive.
They are. And they often come with a lot of strings attached. You really have to do your homework to see if it's the right fit.
It's not free money. Speaking of not having a money tree in the backyard, the workbook actually shares a pretty inspiring story about a company called Hippie Chick.
Yeah, I like their story.
They managed to piece together funding from a variety of sources. They got family loans, they used an overdraft, and they even secured some small grants. It shows that sometimes it takes a bit of creativity. Persistence pays off. So let's say you've done all the groundwork. You've secured funding, your business is up and running. That's it, right? You frame your business plan, hang it on the wall, and just watch the money roll in.
Not so fast. The workbook really emphasizes that this is just the beginning. Your business plan, it's not a static document.
Right.
It's a living, breathing thing.
Like a constantly evolving roadmap.
Yeah. You need to constantly monitor your progress, adapt to changes in the market, make adjustments as you go.
So it's less like a set-in-stone instruction manual and more like a compass, right?
Yeah, a compass. You're constantly making small course corrections along the way.
And that's where those key metrics we talked about earlier come into play.
Absolutely. You need to be constantly measuring, analyzing, making sure you're on track. Are you hitting those sales targets? Is your marketing resonating with your audience? These are questions you should be asking yourself all the time.
So it sounds like entrepreneurship is really about embracing the unknown, being willing to learn and adapt as you go.
Definitely.
Not for the faint of heart, but then there's that incredible reward of building something from scratch, watching it grow.
There really is. There's nothing quite like it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the business plan workbook, what's that one golden nugget you want our listeners to take away?
I think the key takeaway is that a business plan, it's more than just a document. It's a mindset.
It's about being proactive, anticipating those challenges, and adapting to whatever comes your way.
Exactly.
And turning those dreams, those ideas, into concrete, actionable steps.
Absolutely.
Well said. A huge thanks to our expert for joining us today and sharing such incredible insights.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, whether you're just starting out on your entrepreneurial adventure or maybe you're a seasoned pro looking for a little refresher, remember that knowledge is power. Keep asking those questions, keep exploring those possibilities, keep pushing those boundaries. Until next time.